Alright guys, so Sahil has today a very special video for you. This is about which monitor is best for you. Now we'll be talking about all the aspects of the monitor, the type of monitor, the size of the monitor, the refresh rate of the monitor, the extra features of a monitor to help you decide which monitor is the best for you. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which monitor should you use as per your use case. Here we have three monitors, a 27-inch monitor, a 34-inch ultrawide monitor and a 32-inch monitor. There are other sizes too below the 27 inches, which is 21 inches, 22 inches, 24 inches, like this monitor over here. Just for comparison purposes, I'll just see this. But I won't be talking about monitors below 27 inches because the ideal size, it starts from 27 inches, because anything below that, go for that if you have budget constraints. I'm talking about a situation where you don't have budget constraints. You should be starting with the 27-inch monitor because that is the best starting point for a monitor. Now I'm making this video with the assumption that the monitor is being used in a desktop environment. That means the monitor is placed on a desk and your eyes are approximately between 35 to 45 centimeters away from the monitor. That is generally the distance when you're working with a monitor. So I'm not talking about a scenario where the monitor is placed far away and you're on a couch or something like that. Let us start with the 27-inch monitor. The 27-inch monitor is the most versatile, the best size for the peripheral vision of your eyes. Now, what is the peripheral vision of your eyes? So your eyes, there's a certain angle at which your eyes can view without your eyelids really moving around. For that case scenario, the 27-inch is the best. And the 27-inch is great for multitasking because you can easily open two windows at once. It's great for video editing. It's great for content consumption, for playing games, for watching movies. It is overall actually the most accessible size to go for. So if you're starting out on your desktop journey, the 27-inch is a size that you cannot go wrong with. I think there should be a mention for the 24-inch size. The 24-inch is also a great size, and if you can get a 24-inch monitor with 1440p resolution, that is actually also really good for multitasking. But you'll be more comfortable with multitasking on a 27-inch monitor, because on a 24-inch monitor, the size of two windows open together, you won't get really a very usable real estate to view all the content of the two windows open. Next, let's talk about the 34-inch size. This is an ultra-wide monitor with an aspect ratio of 21:9, whereas these have an aspect ratio of 16:9. The 34-inch is actually the same as this, but it's just widened a little. If you're going for a 34-inch monitor, keep in mind this monitor is a great size if your workflow involves a lot of video editing, a lot of sound editing, and if working with multiple windows, like even three windows open together, is a core part of your workflow. But you also have to keep in mind that when you go for an ultrawide monitor, although it's great for games that support ultrawide gaming, and if you're playing a racing game on an ultrawide monitor, it's a great experience. There are a lot of games that do not support ultrawide monitors. I'm playing Elden Ring these days, it does not support ultrawide. Cyberpunk does not support ultrawide. Dota 2 does support ultrawide. A lot of YouTube content does not support ultrawide. Yes, you'll find a lot of content on Netflix and other streaming platforms that do support ultrawide, but when it comes to content consumption, a lot of content does not support ultrawide. But if it does support, then yes, ultrawide is actually great. And also keep in mind that for an ultrawide monitor, you need to have that desk space also that can accommodate that ultrawide monitor. Let's talk about the 32-inch size. This, I would say, is a luxury to have if you can get a monitor with a good resolution. Like this one is a 4K monitor over here. So these two, by the way, are QD OLEDs and this is an IPS screen. This monitor actually, if you are into a lot of content consumption, if you are into a lot of gaming, and if you're into workflows like image editing specifically, then this monitor is really good. Multitasking over here also is really good with two windows. If you're using more than two windows at a single point of time, then obviously the ultrawide is much more better. So the 32-inch, the only drawback over here in the 32-inch is that I was talking about the peripheral vision of your eyelids. So it might require some movement of your eyelids to view the entire content of the screen without really moving your eyelids. So that is kind of a challenge for some people in the 32-inch monitor. But I think for content consumption, if you want a great luxurious experience, then obviously the 32-inch is more vibrant and more immersive than a 27-inch monitor. So if content consumption is your main thing, if gaming is your main thing, I would recommend a 32-inch more than a 27-inch. If, for example, you do a lot of content consumption, but you also do a lot of productivity work, then you know what, 27-inch is actually the way to go. The 27-inch is actually a one-size-fits-all kind of a display. Let us talk about the refresh rate. So why I've picked specifically these three monitors? Because they all have a different refresh rate. This BenQ has 60 Hz, this MSI QD OLED has 165 Hz, this Ultrawide QD OLED has 240 Hz. The 60 Hz, if you're into productivity work with not much gaming, a lot of video editing, the best. 60 Hz, you don't need anything more than that. Even if you're gaming, 60 Hz is good enough. But when do you go above 60 Hz? When you're like really into gaming. If you're into gaming, that's when you need to put 60 Hz to the side and go for the higher refresh rate monitors, because the experience is genuinely much more better than 60 Hz. Personally, I actually even prefer working around Windows and Mac in 120 Hz, because now I know the difference. Even when I move the mouse, the smoothness is very different on a 120 Hz. Now notice this monitor is 240 Hz. Now when do you go for a monitor with a refresh rate of 240 Hz? And these days there are even 360 Hz and 480 Hz monitors. To drive a game even at 120 Hz or 165 Hz in a resolution like 1440p or 4K, you need a really powerful system. And these days, even the most powerful systems cannot drive a game at 120 Hz in a 4K resolution. So if you're going for something like 240 Hz, you have to keep in mind that any of the latest games, your system mostly won't be able to handle it. What cases you really need to go to 240 Hz and above is if you're a competitive gamer. If you're playing Counter-Strike, if you're playing Dota 2, and if you're playing Valorant, games like this on a competitive level, then go for a monitor with as high of a refresh rate that you can find. Let's talk about the type of display. On one side you have the IPS displays and one side you have the OLED displays. The price difference between IPS displays and OLED displays is very, very significant, and I've explained it in the review of these two monitors, and I'll give a link of that in the description. If gaming and content consumption is just not a part of your life, then you know what, don't even look at OLED monitors. I mean, the amount of money that you'll be spending on OLEDs just won't be worth it. Then an IPS display is actually the best, because IPS displays have really good color accuracy and you don't really need that OLED quality. And actually for text, IPS screens are much more better than OLED screens. Although OLED screens have really caught up in terms of the clarity of the text, but nothing beats an IPS screen. So you go for an OLED monitor if content consumption and gaming is what your use is, then you go for an OLED monitor. Let's talk about the other features. These days monitors are coming with a KVM switch. A KVM switch allows you to connect your input, your keyboard and mouse directly to the monitor. No matter what system your monitor is connected to, you don't need to change the input to that specific system. Your input will always be working with that display. So if you're using a lot of devices and if you're switching between a lot of devices, then go for a monitor with a KVM switch, which is in this monitor the MSI MPG 341 CQPX. These days actually a lot of mouse and keyboard, like the newer ones, they have profiles that they work with, so you don't really need a KVM switch. If you want to save money, just get a mouse and a keyboard that supports multiple profiles, so you can on the fly switch the input device, so you don't really need a KVM switch. Overall, I still feel that the 27-inch is a very versatile size. Even the 34-inch is a very versatile size. It's only that there's a lot of content that won't be able to make good use of the 34-inch size. Last but not the least is, should you go for a curved or not? So now curved, there are a lot of specifications in the curve. So it has this number. In a curved monitor, you'll always see this number: 1800R, 3200R, 900R. The lower the number, the more aggressive the curve. I've noticed that if the curve is more aggressive, like if you reach the territory of 1200R and 900R, that is a little bothersome. But if you're in the range of say 1800R, like this curve is the best, because you won't even notice that it's that curve, but it will still really do wonders for your peripheral vision. A curve like 3200R is really just get a flat monitor rather than getting a 3200R curved monitor. So this was my take on which monitor size you should get. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Do like and do subscribe to this video. Sahil out.